Hey, all, welcome to the Seven Figure Podcast. This is Nick Dambry, and you are at episode 16. And I'm going to be sitting with Kevin Fletcher today. Wonderful friend, great investor, awesome real estate agent, covers commercial to residential real estate. In 2008, 2009, 2010, he lost over $1 million and now has come back and he's 10x'd that. He's operating at a $13 million portfolio, owns trailer parks, investment buildings. He is the guy that you want to listen to. Stick around to the end. He's going to tell you what to do in 2024 to make it a killer year. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy and we're in the middle of hunting season, so it means a lot that you took time out of your day to come down and chat with me and just kind of give me some insight to your world and how you do things and how you've become so successful in the world of commercial real estate, but you're also now expanding more into the residential side too. Is that right?
Yeah, I expanding to the residential side is probably not the right approach. I mean, for the first 17 years of my career, we did both. Mm-hmm. I did commercial real estate. I did residential real estate.
Sure.
After my change in life of 10 years ago, it was, I wanted to be exclusive to commercial real estate.
Okay.
So then I moved to, a boutique commercial firm here in Portland, worked there for a number of years, came to Keller Williams thereafter. It was really the pandemic and COVID-19, which prompted me to say, hey, well, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. When the pandemic hit that spring, or, late winter, early spring, I could have taken 6 months off and done anything I wanted.
Right.
And it was like, okay, well, what I got to do is I got to make some money.
Right.
And so at that point, there was this epiphany of like, okay, if I'm going to get paid, I'm going to broker anything.
Sure.
I think in those 6 months, I would have brokered a car for 3%.
Yeah.
I would have brokered anything for 3%. So, right. I think that was the catalyst to come back to the concept of, being, the right person for our clients for whatever their real estate needs are.
Sure.
Albeit, certainly a primary focus of commercial investment real estate. It was that catalyst which prompted me to be both.
So sometimes it's really hard, and I see people not doing it, but straddling both the commercial world and the residential world. And from my vantage point, I see residential brokers try to become a commercial broker or straddle that, and they just don't have the aptitude, maybe not aptitude, but they just don't have the ability to cross over into the commercial world, because I find the commercial world to be, very, very, very much so the wild, wild west, in old boys club. It
can be.
Yeah.
It's softening in that approach. Mm-hmm. I mean, 25 years ago when I got in the business, 27 years ago when I got in the business, I went to my designated broker at the time. This was 27 years ago. It was the first firm I ever worked at. It was an ERA franchise. And I told him I wanted to be in commercial real estate. And he told me I couldn't. Mm-hmm. And he said, you can't compete with them down the street. So I went to work for them down the street.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me I can't.
Right.
But at the time, it was very much that good old boys network. And I say good old boys, even the women that were in commercial real estate were very protective and hard to deal with.
Right.
And so when I got my CCIM designation, that was the catalyst to start getting the respect from them.
Okay.
I think the industry is softening some. Mm-hmm. And I think technology and, these cell phones that we have, which have everything at our fingertips, and I think there's a little bit of a softening and a crossover now, which is being allowed or accepted. And, one of the reasons I created the class I created, Intro to Commercial Real Estate, was so that we can start bridging this gap, so that if the residential brokers do want to do commercial transactions, they at least learn it enough to speak our language, because our language is different.
Sure.
Your language is different.
Yep.
Residential brokers have a different language than commercial brokers. And so I think as long as, residential brokers can help understand at least the language that we're talking about in commercial real estate, that crossover will be smoother.
Sure. Okay. So do you mainly focus on the commercial world? Is that what you enjoy?
That's a great question. So our logo says commercial residential management, right? So my company's goal is to be that it's a term that's overused, but that one-stop shop, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't like to say that,
Right.
but real estate agents in general work very, very hard to create a client.
Right.
And we work very hard to try to be the the real estate person for that client.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that client's needs will evolve over time.
Right.
And we want to do what we can to help that client in those three aspects of real estate.
Right.
So though you asked what's my passion is the investment side of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I get driven by helping people create money and wealth through real estate. Having said that, can I help sell a house? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will. And there are times when, if we're first-time home buyers, it'll be somebody else on my team. Sure. Right? But we still want to be that person for the right people. And then we're on the catalyst of launching, management. I own 120 units myself. So, we manage those 120 units. Sure. And we have infrastructure and stuff to handle that. Mm-hmm. And we're on the catalyst of the cusp of turning on management. So describe to me your portfolio. 120, would you say 120 units? 120, trailer park. Let's summarize it. Blue collar workforce housing. Okay. I want to, it's, what I really like is being able to provide good quality, affordable housing units for Maine's workforce. Yeah. Okay. Right. Like it's not, I'm not going to have the Class A stuff that somebody's got to pay $2,400, $2,700, $2,800 a month. Mm-hmm. That's not my niche. Sure. But good quality, safe places that somebody that is working 40, 50 hours a week that wants to raise their kids, or they've downsized and, they're not ready for assisted living, but they want something safe and clean. And that's my niche. So, I heard you say trailer park? 2 trailer parks, an apartment complex, and then an array of some other stuff. Okay. And how are the trailer parks? Because that was it might still be a hot investment item, but everybody was looking for the trailer park, looking for the trailer park. And it was kind of like I don't want to say a run on them over the last 3 or 4 years. Is that has it worked out to be a good investment? Is it something that you enjoy? Do you look at adding more of those? Tell me more about the trailer park. Good investment. I learned some lessons. Sure. I bought both of the trailer parks in the late half of 2019. Mm-hmm. We're paying off the debt, and we're creating equity, and the cash flow has really continued just to pour back into them. I think the biggest mistake what we made was not doing enough physical due diligence. Sure. And really understanding maintenance and renovations and construction and, the inner workings of running and operating a trailer park. Mm-hmm. It is different. It's different. I mean, I've owned multifamilies for 27 years. I bought my second sale was my first apartment building. Okay. So, and I've sold over 400 apartment buildings in my career. I know multifamilies. Mm-hmm. And I thought there was a relatively easy transition in a good investment. Yes. Am I happy I bought them 100%? Mm-hmm. From a tax perspective, the depreciation has saved me enormous amounts of money on my personal taxes. So I do believe that it's a good investment. Mm-hmm. We underperformed on due diligence on the front end. Sure. So if somebody was looking at a trailer park or a mobile home park, what key due diligence should people be doing? Understanding the construction and turnover of a trailer, right? So the trailers are just built differently than a single family home or a multifamily. Yes. And it's considered personal property. It is. Yeah. Yep. So are you able to write that personal property off over a 5-year period? No. I had actually spent 2 or 3 years thinking it's still depreciated over 27 and a half. Really? Yeah. Can you do a cost segregation on it? You can. Okay. Yep. You can do a cost seg on the trailers and a cost seg on the infrastructure of the park. Right. So the pavement, the all that stuff. Yep. Okay. But the construction is just different. Sure. So, you've got, some things that we've experienced. You've got, when you get leaking through softer subflooring. There's, underneath the trailer is a belly pan and insulation, and that gets wet and you've got to fix it. And, it's just little things here and there. And then, and then the construction, like the windows are different and the doors are different. And
so what I've seen also, when I've talked to about investing in mobile home parks, is they really don't want to own the trailer. They want to just lease the land.
Well, sure. That's an ideal. But then it's a balance. When we bought 2 trailer parks, we owned 50 trailers.
Wow.
I bought 2 29-unit site parks, and each were 29 units, and ironically, each had 25 homes that we owned.
Okay.
So, it's a balance. Sure. You have these, we'll call them Class A trailer parks, where you've got a number of sites and it's land only, and those are great. But then you're competing with everybody else. You're competing with the REITs, and you're competing with, I've sold 3 or 4 different packages of trailer parks in the state of Maine. One was, where I worked with a national team through KW, a national team, and we sold, one package was over 80 million.
Oh, wow.
Another one was over 17.5 million in the state of Maine.
Wow.
And these sites are picked up by REITs.
Yeah. Okay.
So, those are great if you want to compete with REITs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you and I can't.
Yeah. No.
Right. But blue collar workforce housing.
Yeah.
That's a good niche.
Is there a plan to hey, I'm going to slowly get these off my books? And
we've already started.
Yeah.
We've already started.
Do you do owner financing for the person that's in there?
Yep. Okay. I actually just sold my first trailer a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
Week ago.
Okay.
And we're financing at 12% interest.
Yeah.
10% down.
That's great. So eventually you just won't have that.
Right.
Right. And then you won't have that.
And if we take some back, then we turn around and sell it again.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Wow. That's really cool. And then tell me about the multifamily. So when your investment right now is just all housing. It's none of it's warehouses. None of it is, commercial spaces or anything like that.
No, I the story. Like, I've lost $1 million in the crash of 08, 9, 10. And you don't just lose $1 million in like the blink of an eye. It happens over 2 or 3 years. And I was heavily invested in commercial real estate at that time.
Yeah.
I feel pretty safe with housing. Sure. Everybody always needs a house.
Right.
And the stuff I'm buying, the comfort level for me now at our age is downside protection and risk protection. And the comfort level for me is all the stuff I'm owning and I'm buying, I can rent at $100 less a unit and still pay my bills. So even if there is a slight dip in the rental market, I'm good.
Yeah.
Even if there is an uptick in vacancy, I can still pay my bills.
Right. Right.
And to me, at my age, at that point in, getting back into real estate after what the life lesson that I went through 15 years ago now, it's a conservative approach. I say that, right? Like, it's a conservative approach, yet I'm at 120 units and 13 million in assets under management, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Some would say that's not very conservative, Kevin. But to me, it's...
Well, I think you do it differently, right? You learn through your mistakes, and obviously, geez, I want to dive more into this, 08, 09, 2010, where you lose $1 million and then rebuild back up to, 18 million in assets. Is that what you just said?
12, 13 million.
Yeah.
I don't track it.
Yeah, sure.
Right. But,
that's a, in a 15-year period, you've come back and 10x that.
Yeah, I would arguably say that was probably more like a 6-year.
Okay.
It took me, so you want to dive into 2008?
Yeah.
So 2008 hits, going into 2008, 2007, I was aware enough to say, please, real estate God, give me another year. And it didn't happen. We kind of all felt something, but we didn't really know what it was. I had, at that time it was, I think I figured $8 or $9 million in assets under management. My monthly mortgage payments was $50,000 a month, and my cash reserve was non-existent.
Okay.
Just, again, a scary time. But at the time, I was also only 34 years old.
Yeah.
33, 34. And you don't realize what you don't know.
Sure.
At that age.
So I want to hold that for a second. So 34 years old, you have got $50,000 a month in monthly payments for mortgages and no reserves.
None.
Is that
but nothing
is that one of your major mistakes?
Oh, 100%.
Or were you over leveraged? Or
no.
both?
No, I wouldn't say I was over leveraged.
Sure.
Because there was a 7-figure net worth there.
Okay.
Right. So again, going into 2007, you look at your balance sheet and you're like, okay, this is worth X. I owe Y.
Yeah.
My net worth is this. I didn't feel like it was over leveraged. I think it was a cash reserve issue.
To be able to weather the storm.
I had never had a storm.
Right. Okay.
You at the time, and I know that you've experienced this as well. You hear stories of 88, 89, 90.
Yeah, I lived through that. I mean, I lived through it in a different way. My dad, lost everything,
right.
and we moved from a big house to a 1-bedroom apartment,
right,
over a weekend with a sheriff handing us papers. So I get, like for me, it's like much more. Okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I didn't live through it. I just heard the stories of it.
Sure.
And so, and again, the mindset of a 33-year-old, 34-year-old
invincible.
Right? Yeah. Like nothing bad can happen to me.
Right.
And so you realize very quickly, our real estate income went down. Right? We're not making what we were making. At one point in there, oil went to $4.50 a gallon. We had felt like, in one LLC that I had, we had 2 buildings free and clear. We felt like we had finally made it. And that year we had, I don't know, well over 80, 90 residential units at that time. And the heating bill was $90,000 in one winter.
Jesus.
And I didn't have it.
Yeah.
So I had to sell the 2 buildings I owned free and clear. And oh, by the way, I was selling them at 60 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So so to go back to your point, I don't think it was over leveraged, but we also didn't realize that real estate values were going to drop 40%.
Yeah. So that's how what happened in the LA market?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had one commercial project. It was a 23,000 square foot office center. And, I owed Northeast Bank $850,000 or $900,000. I lost one tenant for $50-something thousand a year. Another tenant went from $80,000 a year in rent to $50,000 a year in rent just for me to keep them. So the net loss was $80,000 a year in income. And I had vacancy and I had to put money in to fix them up to get released.
Yeah. Go
to Northeast Bank and they're like, yeah, no, not only are we not going to lend you money, we're calling you no due because we don't think it's worth anything more than $500,000. I know you owe $850, but we think it's worth $500 and we're going to call you no due.
Unbelievable.
So it was just a death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, right?
So
you've come out of that. You lick your wounds for 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, I mean, I there's more to the personal story on that. I mean, I realized 10 years ago I got sober.
Yeah.
Went through a divorce, restarted my life. And I think that, you just don't go through that turmoil bouncing back instantly. I mean, it took me 5 years to have faith in myself again.
Yeah.
To believe that I could do it. And really, so, buy a few buildings here and there with a guy that you and I both know. I'm in real estate. I'm brokering real estate. I'm doing some investments. But really, it was 2019. And that's not long after I came to Keller Williams that, and the move to Keller Williams really helped me shift my mindset and focus on certain things.
Sure.
And that helped launch the catalyst to where I'm at now.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show today. If you ever want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in the greater Portland area, please reach out to us here at Danbury Guerin Real Estate Advisors. Our phone number, 207-553-2400, or you can always email us at team@danburyguerin.com. So, if I'm hearing you right, I'm keying in on, okay, one of the major things I had wrong, Nick, was no capital reserves. So how have you changed that now? 50 cents of every dollar that comes in sits in an account. You get to a certain point and you're like, because for me, it's like, okay, this is the amount of money I need sitting in a checking account so I can go sleeping it. So I can go to bed at night.
Yeah, I think it's, that's a great question. How has it changed? Understanding budgeting.
Okay.
Understanding budgeting. And that's a skill set that for 20 years of my career, I didn't have.
And how did you get that skill?
The School of Hard Knocks.
School of Hard Knocks.
And listening to other people.
Okay.
Listening to people smarter than me and acknowledging the fact that I didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just, I don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know it. I'm willing to admit it. And I'm willing to listen to people smarter than me.
Okay.
Because one of the biggest injustices that we have in America right now is the financial illiteracy that we're teaching these kids.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And why is it that I have to learn it after losing $1 million and going through it? I'm in my 40s before I really have that light bulb moment.
Right.
So, it is a strategic reserves now, right? It's, hey, I'm leveraged to, on some projects, probably 60%. On some projects, it might be 65%, right? Yeah. So I always have some equity that is there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's understanding, okay, well, maintenance might just wait.
Right.
Right. Like not, I own an apartment complex, 48 units. We've got a couple of units that are vacant. They're going to sit vacant because the maintenance budget doesn't allow me to turn those units over in the month of December or in the month of November.
Yeah.
We have 2 units we're turning over, but we're not turning over all 6.
Sure. Okay.
And so understanding cash flow and budgeting, and it sounds really simple to say, oh, I understand a budget. Oh, I understand cash flow. But do you?
Yeah. Yeah. I struggle with a budget, especially in our world. Yeah. Because, in real estate, you make money, you don't make money 1 month, you make a lot of money in 1 month, you don't make a lot of money. So for me, it's like really, hey, you got a budget.
Right.
And I do it, but it's like, do I really understand it?
Well, and one of the great things I learned from one of the leaders here at this office is, articulating what is your zero. Right. And so for some people, it might be, hey, $50,000 in the checkbook is my new zero.
Right.
That's my new zero.
Yeah.
So if I have 60, I only have 10.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right. 50 is my zero.
Right.
100 is my zero.
Right.
And, for some projects, one of my projects probably is $6 million project. It might be $100,000. It might be $200,000.
Right.
Yeah. So understanding where your zero is.
So in your 27-year span, what's been your biggest win?
Real estate wise or personal wise?
Both. Each column.
Personal wise, it would be getting sober. I mean, that fundamentally creates the foundation for me to do everything.
Right.
So going through that turmoil and realizing the challenges that I was facing in life and realizing the fact that in order for me to do all of these hopes and dreams and ambitions that I had under the fog of pretenses of drinking every single day was probably the biggest epiphany. The biggest win, I got to tell you, there's been a lot. I don't know if do you want to say a deal or, from a personal perspective, from a business perspective, personally speaking, I would say joining Keller Williams.
There you go.
Right. Like, and that sounds kind of strange to say, well, because here, like I loved the boutique firm I worked with.
Sure.
I loved him. I'm still friends with the owner. We still communicate all the time. If he ever needed anything, I'd go help him.
Right.
And I think vice versa. And I missed the camaraderie there. but it was just different. And coming here changes your mindset.
Right.
Like, and there's a personal growth
Mm-hmm.
wrapped around the culture of this company.
Mm-hmm.
And that is probably my biggest professional win. I mean, but it's kind of setting the foundation. Deal wise, I would say pulling off my first syndication for that 48 unit apartment complex.
Yeah.
That was a deal where, it was my first syndication.
Mm-hmm.
And two, we created $1 million the day we closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that.
Yeah.
And now we're just expanding that $1 million in growth.
Yeah. So explain to people, because I understand your win coming to Keller Williams, because I understand the commercial world in our market.
Yeah.
Right. You make $1 and 50% of it goes to the house.
Correct.
Like right out, so just 50% goes to the house, and there's no, in Keller Williams world, there's a cap. Like, I'm going to only give you a certain amount, and then it's all mine.
Right.
And in the commercial world, that never changes. Or is there a scale?
There is a scale. I mean, I think, when I left, I don't want to get into specifics just for, but you're right. There is, you make $1, the house gets some, and you get the rest. Then you lose, you also don't have certain expenses. I didn't have to pay for signs. I didn't have to pay for, certain admin fees that I do now. But I also didn't get the tax deductions of those.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming to Keller Williams, there is the cap. And so, for us, I pay $25,000 to a company, and I don't have to worry about being a designated broker. I don't have to worry about escrow accounts and trust accounts and operation manuals and SOPs and like any of that stuff. Right. That's a win for me. And I get to decide how I spend my marketing dollars and how I spend where I spend it. Mm-hmm. But more importantly than that, it really is the mindset and the work on your personal growth, which is tremendous. Mm-hmm. When I came over here, I was wooed. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie. I mean, you went through it. They woo you a little bit. Mm-hmm. They make you feel really good. Yeah. All great stuff. And I thought I was, and I was classified as a mega agent at the time. Mm-hmm. So I come over and I ask, hey, what's a mega agent? Why did they get their own offices and all this other stuff? And they told me, and I'm like, oh, that's me. Mm-hmm. And I was making good money. Mm-hmm. And I got challenged by our TL at the time, our team leader, to really articulate what my goal was the following year. Mm-hmm. And she was brutal at pulling that out of me. Mm-hmm. And I threw out a number just to get her out of my office. Yeah. To be brutally honest with you. And I've told her this story. I hope she hears this. Yeah. And I threw out a number just to get her out of my office, because I'm like, okay, you're beating me to death. Like, mm-hmm. But I hit it. Yeah. I hit it. And it was for me, it was a breakthrough, a glass ceiling that I didn't think I could get. Right. So when I said it, I was just saying it to get her out of the office.
What did you change to hit that goal? There had to have been something systemized.
I don't think
leverage.
There was. I think it was just the fact that I was making more money. Okay. I was driven to make. I wasn't driven. I needed to make more money. Mm-hmm. When I left the boutique firm, my conversation was very clear. Mm-hmm. I love you. I want to stay here, but I need to make more money, and this is a better opportunity for me to make more money. Yeah. It was a 6-figure pay raise doing the same amount of business coming to it, just with a different commission split. Yeah. Astronomical. Yeah. And then I think, to answer your question, there was a light bulb moment. I can remember I did a small lease in Lewiston. Mm-hmm. I had the listing. Tenant calls me up. I go down. I show the space. My wife was with me at the time. Mm-hmm. I unlock the door. We strike a deal. I text the owner while I'm there. I'm there for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. $1,200 commission. Mm-hmm. And that was a light bulb moment, because the $1,200 was all mine. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but that paid my car payment. That paid my insurance. It paid gas. It paid some food, right? Sure. So I think that the epiphany to break through from where I was for a number of years at the same general GCI, mm-hmm. to that year that I went over, it was that. Mm-hmm. It was that epiphany that 100% of the commission is mine. Mm-hmm. And now I'm motivated
Right.
to make extra calls. Now I'm motivated to work extra hours.
Sure.
Now I'm struggling with that next breakthrough. Right. And you and I have talked about that a little bit. Now I'm at that point where, hey, I've been here for 2 or 3 years, or 4 years, and I'm really comfortable.
Right.
I just re-engaged my business coach out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'm like, because now I'm like, okay, well, now what's next?
I was listening to a gentleman the other day, and he said, to get to the next level, you need to leave what you are doing.
Right.
And it's very hard to be like, well, I don't want to leave that, because it's like, it's comfortable, but you've got to be able to leave what you've been doing to do what you want to do. Like, the old saying of, how does it go? Something along the lines of, if you don't change, you're not going to change. You're not going to get what you want if you don't change.
Yeah. And I heard, again, on the similar path, right? I heard somebody articulate, people see a big change in their lifestyle when they go from, and I don't really like to throw numbers around,
Sure.
but just for the sake of argument, I'll throw some numbers around because everybody's different. But there's a relatively big change in lifestyle when you go from $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and now you're making 150.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Right. Like, that's a big drastic bump.
Right.
But then, and you feel it in your life, you feel it in everything you're doing. And then they said, but there's really not that much more when you go from 150 to 180 to 200 to 225, because your lifestyle changes with it progressively along the way.
You just keep spending more money.
Yeah. And so where you don't see it and feel it, you really don't realize the fact that you're limiting yourself because you don't think the extra work will make a difference.
Interesting.
Right. And so I'm a big believer in understanding mindset and the challenges that we have emotionally and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm nearing 50 and I'm just realizing how to deal with the brain that God gave me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
There's things I can do to support it.
Yeah.
But I can't change my aggressive ADHD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
And the fact that I forget things, and I say I'm going to do things and I forget to do them. And there's certain things I can't change, and that's just part of who I am, and understand. So I'm a big believer in understanding that. And so that really resonated with me because I'm like, okay, I am comfortable and I'm successful.
Yeah.
And is the work going to really?
Right.
And so I think it will, but you and I we've talked about this. We're on a similar, like, how do we get from where we're at to 7 figures?
Right. So let me ask you, that's a great lead into kind of a close. What are your targets in the next 12 months? And what do you feel that you need to do to hit those targets? How can somebody, where should somebody start? The first question, so what are your targets coming up? And, how does that look the next 12 months? How's that look?
So I'm a simplistic guy. I listen to people that came before me. And one of the biggest things that resonates with me is Jim Rohn's statement.
I love him.
Okay. That says, 2 things. He said 2 that I really like. In order for things to change, you have to change.
Right.
And then the other one is that if you help enough people get what you want, you'll get what you want.
Yeah. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've taken the stance that in order for things to change, I have to change. So I'm working on myself.
Okay.
Like, my predominant focus right now is on me. I'm listening now at the nudge of my business coach to re-listen to Think and Grow Rich.
It's a great book.
This will be my 3rd time.
Yeah.
So I'm working on trying to expand my thought process and looking at different things that I can do. My wife and I have had conversations about changing up our morning routine a little bit. Just to try to, and articulating, I have anxiety and I have meditation. And why aren't I meditating to help with my anxiety? I know what to do.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm doing it. And then the other piece is, the second part of that is I'm really pouring into the people that are in my tribe.
Sure.
Right. And so, I've got a tremendous agent on my team now who has revitalized my belief that people will come work with you and do what they say they're going to do. So it's rekindled the concept that, the Fletcher group can be more than just me. Yeah. I've got great people now in maintenance and management. And so, taking a step back, in order for me to break through, it is to help pour into them. Okay. And really what are their goals and helping them with their leadership skills and their, we're being driven to push into social media. I heard in one of your podcasts, we're in a generation where we're aware of it, but we're not utilizing it enough. And then you've got somebody like Malachi Winslow, who's just, crushing it, or Will Van Winkler, and they're crushing it on social media. And it's like, I'm staring at 50 next year and I'm like, okay, well, I know I got to do it. And so
how much long, like for me, I'm looking at it as like my runway's another 20 years. Either I got to do it or I'm going to be irrelevant.
Exactly. And so, but I've got my own mental blocks around it. So I'm, forcing, okay, Tyler, let's do this. Yeah. You're 21. Yeah. Set the camera up, ask me a question.
Let's do it.
Right? Like, don't just, you handle it.
Yeah.
And so, pouring into them, trying to become a little bit, more aware of my own roadblocks.
Great.
And my own challenges and overcoming them.
Yeah.
Facing the fear, eating the frog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just doing it.
Right.
It'll be interesting.
That's great. Well, Kev, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate your insight and your willingness to share. And 2024, we're going to kill it.
I think so.
Yeah, it's going to be a change. It's going to be a wonderful growth experience. Like, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic about 2024.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we talk about the market being down and this and that, whatever. I'm like, listen, there's opportunities in any market. Any single real estate market, good, bad, 2008, 2009, there were opportunities. The challenge in those times was I was dealing with my own personal baggage. But if I had been aware, arguably sober and aware, oh my God, the opportunities at that time.
I remember talking with a coach at the time. I think it was probably 2008 or 9, and I was just like, "There's nothing to sell. There's nothing to sell." And I'm on my own pity train. And he's like, "Nick, go to the MLS." So I go to the MLS. He's like, "Type in yesterday's date closed. And I want you to tell me how many properties closed in the state of Maine yesterday." And it was like 300.
Yeah.
He's like, "You just don't know where to find them."
Right. Well, and the MLS stats are great. I mean, I can remember, when I got licensed in 1997, talk about the MLS stats. There was MLS books at the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, MLS books. We didn't have computers. You didn't have technology the way you did. Guess how many multifamilies were for sale in Lewiston, Auburn in 1997 when I got licensed?
I have no idea.
354.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
354 multifamilies. Nobody was doing them. Wow. You could buy a 3-unit for $39,900.
Oh, where are those days? It's kind of like when I say, "Geez, I wish I bought everything on the hill when I could have."
I bought my first 6-unit for $65,000.
Jesus, $12,000 a door.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
11.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
I just, so in any market, there's opportunity. I'm bullish on 2024.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to take a little bit more effort. I think you're going to have, I've been saying this for 2 years now. I think you've got to slow down with your clients, spend an extra 10 or 15 minutes with them, talking about the process and the market.
Right.
Educate them.
Educate
them. Slow down. It'll make the entire transaction smoother. There'll be plenty of deals in 2024.
Right. Right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much.